Max Howell, welcome back to Tuscaloosa. I hope you're doing well.
Ryan, thank you so much. I love that intro music. I guess you're prepping that audience.
We're just trying to get
something coming out, huh?
Hey, we're just trying to get people fired up for football. We're only 24 days away from camp beginning here in Tuscaloosa.
Well, it really all starts after July the 4th. I spent about 30 years in prep for that every year. You got a couple of days off. Some staffs get a day or two off prior to that, but after the 4th, man, it's full speed ahead. Media Day coming up next week in Atlanta, and we'll be ready to roll with the SEC.
Max, I want to ask you, when you look at Nick Saban, you tell me there's another program that can win a national title, lose double-digit guys to the NFL, and that's not even including the undrafted free agents. We're just talking about the draft picks. Replace 6 assistant coaches, both coordinators, and still be the team to beat in college football. Is there another team out there that can handle all that?
No, I don't believe so, Brian. And I'll tell you why. If you look deep into the program, it took me a while really to grasp what's going on. But see, Coach Saban is I hate to throw the word around genius and all, but he's been around long enough, and he knows how to identify personnel, not only on the field but staff members. But I think if you read Kevin Elko's book, I think the process that he has created from the psychological aspect really sets him apart. A lot of programs have got 6'5", 250-pound kids who can run 4.5. A lot of them, those out there, I recruited those myself when I was coaching. But the fact is, to get them to come and fit into your program, understand what you expect, not just on Saturdays, but day by day, not only at practice but off the field as well. To me, that separates Nick Saban from everybody else.
Max, when you look at Nick Saban scheme-wise, I've been told multiple times there's nothing fancy about his schemes. It's just that he emphasizes every single detail and makes sure that you maximize your ability.
Yeah, and I think it all starts with recruiting, Ryan. I mean, if you remember, just because he brings in 5, 6, 7, 8 5-star players and the rest of them 4-star, he's passed on some as well. Just because you have the athletic ability to play at that level, with all the accolades that go with it, doesn't necessarily mean you fit his program or his system. And it really taking a long, hard look from the outside in. Check on those kids on, how they make their adjustment to the team concept. How do they take criticism? How do they take, the compliments they get? They don't need to be reading the newspaper on Sunday morning and by everyone telling them how great they are. Because come Monday when practice starts, Coach Saban will take care of that, with just some of the drills they use. So I'm just saying it's a unique combination of what Nick Saban has put together, starting with the recruiting process down with 9th and 10th graders, understanding the psychological aspect of those kids in addition to their physical ability and the academic standards.
You're a guy that understands both the coaching side of things as well as the media side of things. The quarterback conversation has been mighty, mighty hot here after the national championship performance of Tua Tagovailoa. I know Jalen got the team there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the quarterbacks here in Tuscaloosa.
Well, again, if you step back and look, Jalen's 26-2. And they've been there before. He's done that. I don't see how you can take nothing away from what Tua was able to do in the overtime by throwing the touchdown pass. Was to do a couple to get him there. But in the fact he's a great athlete. And I personally, this is just an observation. I think Jalen gets the start against Louisville, but I do think there'll be several substitutions. I think it'll be, I don't want to say a rotation, but it'll be packages in there for both those quarterbacks. And I think and I'm not saying Jalen Hurts will start every ball game. I think it's going to depend on what the game plan is. I think it's going to depend on what the defense gives them. If they know they're going to start off with a nickel or dime package facing that and know they're going to have to throw or try to run the ball, Hurts will probably get the start. If they come in there, try to get a rush, then I think, basically Tua gets the start. I think those will be the evaluation as we go. But the only thing, Brian, we can do today is evaluate it as we see it today. We can't say September the 1st after the kickoff how that's going to unfold. That's going to happen on the field.
How hard is that from a coaching perspective to manage that?
Well, the hardest part of that is not deciding who's going to play, but be sure that the kids understand it. That's where the great communication comes in. And I think that's where Coach Saban has to be extremely careful, and I know he has been, with the selection of the assistant coaches. Because even though he's the head football coach, that assistant coach or that position coach has way more contact with that individual on a day-by-day basis than the head guy does. I mean, Nick Saban will, he'll pass his philosophy down. He's already done that. Those guys wouldn't be in that position if they didn't agree with what he does. And he agrees that they can make that match. But the communication between that position coach and that player, particularly the quarterback position, is extremely important. And I think at Alabama this year is going to be even more important.
We're talking to Max Howell. Obviously, he's been a coach. He's been a guy that has been on the recruiting side of things. Max, as you look back in your years, the current game that you see it and the way that maybe even it was 25, 30 years ago, and maybe the biggest difference from your perspective?
Well, it was more – we threw the ball. The first thing that I guess I look back in my career, we were doing things at Troy in the 60s, won a national championship there, that they're now doing today. And now that was, remember Billy Atkins came in there, was an All-American at Auburn, played in the NFL, brought the playbook from the West Coast offense. We had local guys. We had half a dozen ex-Alabama players on that football team. I ran the recruiting office there for 6 years, I guess, and we took less than 10 high school players. Most of them were transferred. We were in the NAI division, moving to Division II at that time. But we were doing things. We were running full wide, chicken to line of scrimmage, throwing the ball in the gun under the center. It was a pretty sophisticated offense in those days. But the transition from that for most teams from there to today went through the wishbone. They went through 3 backs, 2 backs. The read option now has evolved, which is not a whole lot different than the whole wishbone, except the quarterback's in the gun as opposed to under the center. But the game has changed. The offensive lineman, we've seen a transition to go from, the 6'3", 6'4" guy, 260, 270 up to 320. Now I think we're going to go back now with the more of the blocking style for pass offense as opposed to putting your hand in the dirt and knocking them off. I think those are the differences that we've seen. But it's an evolution. Offense will get the upper hand for a while because everybody wants to see a lot of scoring. Then the rules will start to change a little, and the defense will take over. So that's the exciting part to me, Ryan. Having been in as long as I have, I really thoroughly enjoy seeing the transition now from team to team and, of course, across the country.
Let me ask you consistently, with what Texas A&M has as far as resources, now they've got a national championship winning coach in Jimbo Fisher. I'm curious what you see, and can they challenge for that number 2 spot consistently?
Not this year. I watched this spring game pretty closely, ran it back 2 or 3 times. And what I'm seeing, and I'll echo what Jimbo said, it's the softest football team that maybe in the Southeastern Conference, say the truth. And Jimbo Fisher knows that. The only team in spring game that went live on kickoffs, punts, and did not have a jersey on the quarterback. And he was trying to send a message. I think it's going to take him a couple of years. I don't see how in the state of Texas, even when your biggest opponent in the in-state is the University of Texas, was not doing very well under Charlie Strong, A&M still couldn't. They had Johnny Manziel, won the Heisman, 110, beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. But why in a program like that, when they have the resources of the biggest school in the Southeastern Conference, their gross income was $70 million more than Alabama's last year, if that tells you anything. They've got support, but they've just never been able to pull it together. There's a lot of people betting that Jimbo Fisher is going to be the guy. But you know what? They had done it. Last championship they won was 1938 was the national champion they won. So they've had many years to prepare for this, where he can get it done. The positive side for Jimbo Fisher, his 10-year contract, $75 million, guaranteed 100%.
Let's spend a little time talking about the Tigers. We'll stop in Lee County for just a couple of minutes and talk about the Auburn Tigers. What are your expectations going into this season?
I think, the defense, I watched the spring game, and I was with a couple of guys that day, and I said, what I see today, and I know it's going to be a little different. Stedham did a little 7-on-7 before the game, didn't dress out, had a couple of wide receivers that went out. I said, from what I saw that day, they need to put on first down because the defense is going to be pretty good. But I think they're going to be able. They got to replace 4 offensive linemen. They don't have the stud running back that they've always had. The young Martin kid, not Asen, not the freshman, but the kid that was the backup this past year. By Augusta's own admission, it's not big enough. He's less than 200 pounds to be really a three-down back. So they've got to find a running back. But I'm more concerned about the offensive front. They hired J.B. Grimes, which is basically one of the top offensive linemen in the coaches in the country. I think if the talent is there, I think he can get it together. But I'll tell you, the most important ball game they got is not Alabama. It's not Georgia. The most important game they got is the open game against Washington. In my opinion, for them to have a good year, they got to beat Washington. I think they have a chance. I really do. Washington got to come across country, and people that's never been in the business don't understand when you put a team and fly them 2,500 miles, you changing time zone. The worst thing they could have done is have to play outside. If they're playing in a climate-controlled dome at 72 degrees, that will help Washington in that case. But Auburn lost the last two trips to Atlanta. They've got to hopefully rebound from that. If they can win that one, they still got LSU, and they still got Mississippi State, they still got Georgia, and they still got Alabama. So they've got a chance, but they're going to have to play well, Ryan, every week, and they cannot have a rash of injuries, and they certainly can't have mistakes on the field.
Both of them have got that sort of crash course, but you've got Miami of Florida, LSU,
right.
and then that third game is really, I think, the maybe will hinge on the season's success or failure. That third game against Auburn for both teams will be crucial for the season.
Yeah, look, Auburn came away with a loss at LSU last year, which was almost unacceptable. They should have never lost that particular ball game. But on the other side, LSU should have never lost to Notre Dame either at the end of the year. So, but that's college football. That's what we have. And look, I'm the world's worst. I tend to evaluate, watch them perform. See, I never watch a SEC game on Saturday in a group. Normally, 99% of the time, I'm by myself in my den watching it if I'm not at a game. And the reason is because I guess I'm still trying to coach from the chair. If they don't perform or if there's obvious mistakes that are made, then that is the downfall of a lot of coaches. If you mention LSU, I think if there's any coach in the Southeastern Conference on the hot seat starting the season, I think it's Ed Ogeron. I really do. I think he named Steve Emsminger as his offensive coordinator. Canada experiment last year didn't work, didn't fit. I've been knowing Steve a long, long time, and he's kind of an old school guy, but he says he can convert. The Burris kid transfers from Ohio State. We got a lot of ifs in there. They got good talent. They do every year, but sometimes getting them to play together consistently, week in and week out, that becomes the biggest challenge.
You've had a chance to obviously watch Dan Mullen do some things at Mississippi State. How much of that success can he walk into? I think he's got 19 starters returning out of the 22 on offense and defense down in Gainesville.
Yeah, I think he's probably got the best shot. He's been there before. He was with Urban and coached twice the national championship. He's done a great job. He reads talent. He coaches quarterbacks up. I'm gonna tell you, I've been in the state of Mississippi. I worked at Ole Miss, my last on the field job, and I decided to stay here. I moved around in the radio business, as you well know, but I decided to come back here. So I got pretty close to that program. If you can recruit to Starkville and win 9 ball games, I'm telling you that's a pretty good move. So I think where he is now, it's going to be really interesting to see how he does with his quarterback. In my opinion, the Emory Jones kid, the freshman, is by far the best kid he's got. Franks will probably get the start because he's been there the longest, but don't look for him to keep that job. Dan Mullen will work, I think, Emory Jones in that starting position pretty quick. He's another, if you've not seen him play, this guy's Lamar Jackson. He can run. He's a 4-3 guy on the keep, and he can throw it down the field 50 yards. He's the package that they need. So I think I got him right now, 4th in the East. But if Missouri doesn't take that 3rd spot, I think it'll be Florida.
Max, just final question. As you look at Athens, Georgia, Kirby Smart, and I'm sure there's probably a little hangover with losing the championship the way they did, but just your thoughts about them going into the 2018 season.
Well, Kirby's done a remarkable job. He did it. He's done it. He took the blueprint that Coach Saban had, and he worked for him for a number of years, and he's implementing that. And I think everybody, Mark Rigg was a good friend of mine. He and I were on the staff together at Florida State, so I kept up with Georgia. Mark did a good job getting them there, but he would always have a game or two that I don't know whether it was lack of preparation or I'm going to say lack of intensity more than anything else. But Kirby's got a different approach to the game. He's bringing the kids there. And all I'll say this, he better make a run as long as he can, because I think Dan Mullen's going to end up giving him a run for his money every year. And I'm not sure Jeremy Pruitt won't do it at Tennessee before it's all over. And South Carolina I don't think South Carolina is going to be back, Ron, good enough to win the thing, but they may can dictate who wins it. They may knock somebody off. Might be Missouri this year. You know, it may even slip up on Georgia. I think they got Georgia second or third. William Bryce is in Columbia. So I think that therein lies some of the pitfalls that Kirby has to overcome. They lose 6 or 7 starters on the defensive side. 2 of the best running backs in the conference are gone. They got 2 good young ones coming. And I think, and now, you know, of course, the Fromm kid was a starting quarterback. We got all the headlines where he busted up his hand, but it was on his non-throwing hand. But if you did see Justin Fields in the spring, they've got almost an identical situation at Georgia that Alabama's got. They're going to have a run for the money. Fromm will have to work every day to keep his starting job.
Well, Max, I've enjoyed talking a little SEC college football with you. I always enjoy your analysis. I appreciate you coming on for a couple of minutes, and we've only got about 24 days until camp begins here in Tuscaloosa and around the SEC.
We'll be in Atlanta for Media Day, and then after that, game on. It's ready to go, Ryan.
I'll see you in Atlanta. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right.